Hello and welcome to the Hawks Nest Behind Enemy Lines. We've got a great content creator in the house today. I'm really excited for this episode, an opportunity to chop this up with an upcoming matchup that's going to be a fun one, prime time. We got my guy, Derrick Fields from the Lions Syndicate in the house. Derrick, thank you for joining us today on the Hawks Nest. Willing to come behind enemy lines. It's always rough, you got to wear your helmet and duck fire and bullets and all that. So I appreciate that. I really do.
Well, I thank you for inviting me. And listen, we're late because of me. I completely forgot. So that's on me. But I appreciate the invite. This is my second time on with a NFC West person. I was on with Jake Ellenbogen. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I like what you're doing. The picture you use, though, for me, that we gotta fix that, man. But it's all good.
Hey, it's Google. It's Google, baby. This is what Google gave me. I said, Google, What you got for Derrick? And they said, here you go. And I was
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's good to know, though.
Yeah. I'll sometimes try to do the screenshot, but then it's all fuzzy and you look like you got fur coming off you if I try to do the screenshot live. Even with the 1080p, it don't come off quite right. So got to be careful with that. Well, I guess we've got a lot to look at in this matchup. We've gone in there 2 straight years and 2 of the funnest games of the year, I think, in the NFL period. I know you've been on the losing end of it. I'm sorry about that, but they've been really entertaining football games. I think you'd acknowledge that as well. Really hard fought football games the last 2 years. And here we come again. Maybe this is going to be a yearly event, Derrick. But I guess before we get into the matchup itself, you were talking with me before off stream kind of about what's maybe the alarm bell ringing a little bit. And I thought you guys got through the game okay. I was watching the game last night and Laporta got back on the field. And okay, you go, well, our slot corner got, but it's only concussion. Maybe he'll be back the next week. You're looking at everybody going back. But then it's a different tale today for your team on the injury front. So we almost have to kind of lead there, don't we, when we look at this matchup first thing for you guys?
Yeah, so we got some news last night. Dan Campbell, after the game, you could see he was somber. Then we got the press conference yesterday, and he let us know that our starting linebacker, Derrick Barnes, is going to be out. He placed on IR today. And opposite Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, who didn't do much, came over from Minnesota last year. He is also out for the season. So we did lose one. Derrick Barnes is temporary. Hopefully he can return at least after 4 games. But Brian Branch, man, got a concussion. He was knocked out cold and he's in protocol right now. We're not sure he's going to go. And he's been a big part of this 2-1 stretch so far. So, I'm hoping he can go, but knowing Dan Campbell, the Detroit Lions, that even if he gets cleared, they'll probably keep him out. So Alex Anzalone, he was out last week. We kind of expect him back. So, we've taken a hit. That's one thing about the Detroit Lions. We have really avoided big injuries. I mean, we had CJ Gardner-Johnson last year, but that was pretty much it. But now, man, they are dropping like flies. We are going onto our practice squad. We did elevate Tim Patrick. So hopefully, man, we can get through this. And like you said, you've come in and beat us 2 years in a row, and it is annoying. I'm just going to keep it real, man. The Seahawks, they have had, it's like we just cannot beat these guys. And soon as the schedule came out and we knew we were playing, we were like, we have to win this game. A lot of Lions fans, they want to beat you guys more than they want to beat the 49ers. That tells you about that.
Well, they've been hellacious battles, man. And they've been ones that have been brutal, I'm sure, to be on the losing end, because you get the other side of it on these fights. And you feel like you almost have played 2 games. There's so much going on back and forth on them in both of the 2 times we've fought. And so it seems like these are really even teams as they've been. They're both kind of, I think, in about the same sort of, place as far as, pretty full rosters. You guys, I think, have done a good job of continuing to top on to what's been a steadily improving team with some of your picks and guys, and we'll talk about that. You even got guys, though, it sounds like, too, like an Aleem McNeil or Frank Ragnow, man, one of the toughest SOBs in the sport, no doubt about that, playing through a partially torn pectoral through the whole, suffer at first quarter and then 3 quarters, just I'm going to roll through this. And, man, that guy's a great player, and then tough as they come, too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's always been like that. He actually has a toe injury that you can't operate on, and he's been playing through that and kind of contemplated retirement last year, but said he was kind of in his feelings about it and decided against it. And you did mention the Liam. How could I forget about him? He actually went out. They are week to week, so we are hoping Frank will. I don't know. Dan Campbell said today that Frank wants to play, and they're going to do whatever is best for him and the team. So we're expecting him to be out, which means we'll have to move Graham to center. He's played it before, but it'll be a big loss, man, if Frank Ragnow can't go. And Aleem McNeil, he was a big part for us. I mean, we'll have DJ Reader, but he was a big part for us last year. So that'll definitely be a big hit, because our run defense is probably the best part of our defense so far. So we'll take a big hit, man, if those guys can't go.
Yeah, there was a play I was watching last night against the Cardinals where Ragnow took the nose tackle in the hole, utterly controlled him. The run by Jahmyr Gibbs goes right off his right side, big old hole off that side. There are not a lot of centers in this league that are able to do that and control a guy in that manner. And he's just very impressive to watch anytime you watch him. I also think you mentioned the run defense. When you look at this Lions team and you go back from 2 years ago when we got you, I think we were able to lean a little bit more in our running game in that game as a way to get by offensively. I think this is going to be a big change from 2 years ago to where you guys are, and what this is part of what you guys have done a good job in tangibly looking at this and going, hey, we need to get this fixed up. I think you guys have tried to do the same thing with your secondary stuff. That's another story for certain reasons, I think, but you've accomplished this on the front and getting better at stopping the run. And it was very impressive against that Cardinal team who can put you in that pickle where, you go light box, they run against you, you go heavy box, they pass against you, and Kyler's back there doing his magicianship stuff. And it can make it very difficult to play defensively, but you guys did a good job of making them one-dimensional. You shut the run game off on that defensively because they wanted to do it, and you made it all on Kyler's arm. And he showed he can't do that on him just solely enough. He needs that running game to be working at the same time.
Yeah, you know what? I think after that 2022 season where we were making a push for the playoffs, we started 1-6, and it was that Carolina Panther game where they put up record numbers. Yeah, the field, you can complain about it, but I think at that point, Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes made an aggressive point to, get this run defense together. And since then, man, it's been top notch. I think we ended last year in top 3, top 5 with the run defense, but our pass defense is where we were lacking last year. We did bring in a couple guys in the secondary, traded for one from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But like you said, you guys were really, I remember that 2022 guy, I think it was that year where Kenneth Walker, he specifically said that they saw something we do on film and they exploited it. And that was that go-ahead touchdown that they had. So hopefully we don't get run on, but you guys got so much to worry about. I'm nervous because you guys have had our number for a while, and, Geno didn't write back. So now, we've had a problem with a quarterback that can move, but we did a great job, like you said, containing Kyler Murray. I think he only had 25 yards or something like that, but so I'm hoping that we can do something similar, man. And this, we really, really feel like we owe you guys. It's been long. And then, I'm going to take it back to 2016 with that playoff game as well. A little punch out the end zone. And that, we still remember, man, we didn't forget. So hopefully we can have a good game. I expect it to be a great game Monday night. We're in our blacks and the crowd's going to be there, man. So I'm excited to see how this is going. I think it's going to be a fight though, like you said.
I think it's going to be a very physical matchup, and we'll see what it goes with you guys offensively. I think when we get into you guys defensively, I don't think that we're, based on how we've run so far this year, we've had some games with 100-yard rushers a couple times, but if you really look at the consistency of our running game coming into this, it's not been something we can necessarily hang our hat on. And with you guys playing good run defense now, maybe you're going to be a little bit shorthanded to a degree. We'll see on that, but that's going to be a part where I think you guys are going to be able to potentially force us a little bit like Cardinals into having to beat you with the pass. But then it does come down to that secondary and that rebuilt a bit secondary at that. I loved Brian Branch coming out of Alabama. I thought he was the best slot corner in the draft. It might eventually become a safety. Is he long-term slot from your perspective of things? Or is there just, maybe don't put him in a box? Maybe he's everywhere.
Yeah, he's kind of everywhere, but he's actually our starting safety. He's opposite Kirby Joseph, who Geno will have to worry about. So, but yeah, Branch, man. And again, I mentioned that concussion. The Lions do not play around with injuries. If you are injured, they're always going to do what's best for you and the team. And it's very rare that, especially Brian Branch was knocked out. So I don't know if he's going to play. We haven't heard anything. We'll get the injury updates, of course, tomorrow. But Brian Branch is a guy that we are sorely going to miss, especially with DK Metcalf back there and Tyler Lockett, the speedy guy. So we're going, and we got Jackson too. So I hope that he can play, but I really don't think he is. I don't think Brian's going to go.
Yeah, he's just such a fun player too, because he's a complete player. You get him in coverage, he comes up, he's willing to hit, he's willing to attack. I mean, it's the hit they laid on. He got concussed. He also concussed the other guy.
Yeah.
So he gave as good as he got.
Football player. That's what he calls him, a football player. And I tell you what, the Lions love football players. Talent, not necessarily, but you got to be able to fit the grit, and you got to be a football player. And that's what Brian Branch is.
I thought with both the two recent picks with you guys in Branch and Campbell, the same way, cut from the same kind of cloth, that a tenacious kind of player at college level like that, say nothing of talent, but just that general attitude that they bring is going to appeal to the Lions. I love that you guys have a identity constructed around that. There's so much lack of uniqueness across the league where every team's trying to carbon copy everyone else. It is kind of your guys' unique sort of identity, and it's cool. It gives you guys your own little kind of sense of identity no one else has. I love it about it. And those guys are pure Lions players. Wouldn't you say the same thing with kind of Campbell, kind of blood and guts kid coming out of Iowa?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of fans weren't over the moon about him, and he had a rough rookie year, but he's coming alive, man. And one thing about Campbell is he's everywhere, and he likes to hit. He makes some plays on Sunday against the Cardinals, and now with Derrick Barnes being out and Alex Anzalone was out last week, he's got to step up, and I expect him to do just that.
Yeah, he's a great stack and shed guy, man. You can get your hand out, you can get him down the second level, and he's big enough. Those all these linebackers now 225, coming out 220 out of 230. So you get a guy that's got some legit, and he can kind of surprise these linemen are used to kind of be able to have their way with those guys at the second level now, because everybody wants the fleet of foot guys that can cover and get that job done. The spot that I think that we could potentially target a little bit, and kids fighting through his own sense of injuries too. Another guy that you got that's going to play, it sounds like, but he's out with a little bit of a knee injury midpoint in the game, was the another rookie you took out of Alabama in the first round. He's been heavily penalized. Where is your take right now? I'm spacing the name right now, but where are you at with him right now on your kind of prized rook and hoping along to that rebuild secondary go?
Well, you know what, Terrion Arnold is who you're referring to. He took a low hit by Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was diving forward. And he took a lot of Lions fans thought it was a dirty game by the Cardinals, but I don't know if you can talk about that, but hopefully we don't really know the significance. Again, the injury report comes out tomorrow. We'll know kind of what's going on there. He has had some growing pains, but from what we've experienced with guys like Jeff Okudah, it's night and day. And Terrion he looked like he learned as the game was going on, and he made a great defensive play, little, very touchy, but he learned to let go. But like you said, heavily penalized, and he said that he's going to learn from it. And one thing about Dan Campbell that he talks about is not messing up a player's confidence. And I think that's what happened with Jeff Okudah. Matt Patricia, he was there and just a nightmare. So, but we're going to let Terrion play. He's going to clean it up. We brought in a new defensive back coach, and I'm sure that Terrion will clean it up. A lot of people are ready to kind of turn the page on him already, just 3 games in. But I think that this guy he's going to have a tough matchup. So I don't know if he's going to be 100%, but whoever he's on, it's going to be tough. I don't know if they're going to try to put him on DK or what, but Terrion, he's had to grow up really fast, bro, because he's been on Mike Evans. He's been on Cooper Kupp. He's been on guys, and it's just getting started. So hopefully he is going to be able to go and be at full strength. Yeah,
what makes it hard already. You're a rookie, and then you're a little injured on top. You're trying to learn the ropes, and you're a step slow just from it, man. That does not make it easy. And he did get better as the game went along. I thought it was just a really hyper physical game for the NFL in this day and age. Honestly, it felt like 2 teams that were deciding, like, it's like that old UFC fight you see with the guy, and then they're in, I think, China, and they're just both throwing punches at each other's face, like one after another, like it's kind of a cartoon, and it was a little bit like that where, and you guys were giving the stronger punch, you guys were doing more there, but it was a little bit to me of just a real physical game versus some of the others that you look across the league and see on it. And Cardinals were getting after it too. They were kind of trying to match what you have to sort of do against your Detroit team was that you guys are so physical at your mindset, at your core, that you have to rise up to meet that. And that's probably going to draw some of the times the opponent to play right up on that line to try to meet that edge. Not that you guys are playing line, but just that to try to get up to that same level of intensity when there's not all those teams out there, a lot of finesse, a lot of, people just trying to just spread the ball out and just run around you a little bit. So that's again, part of what makes you unique. I think that's what probably causes those teams to get a little bit gritty on you guys with that as well. I was surprised by, I didn't know the Cardinals had kind of that in them a little bit. I know they're a good team. They play hard for their coach, but I mean, they're fighting their butts off. They could have wavered that game and given up. And I thought they were pretty resilient because you guys had them over that barrel pretty much and just about sink them under the water and just couldn't quite get them up until that end. You finally did. You did a great job. You guys had control basically of that game, I thought, the whole way. But, yeah, just a hard fought game.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Jared Goff doesn't throw an interception, maybe we kind of close the door on that. But I was surprised because we've had trouble containing quarterbacks that can move, and we did a really good job. But that's one thing about the Detroit Lions. That's the Dan Campbell. That's the Dan Campbell way. It's all about grit and physical violence. That's what they're about. So, but we got a tough matchup this week. And like I said, we've got a big receiver that we've got to worry about. Run game has to step up, the run D, all of that stuff. We got 3 receivers, and I don't know if we can cover all 3. So that's going to be kind of, I I'm very intrigued to see this. And like I said, that you guys have had our number for a long time, and it's kind of we're over it.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this though, you guys, it's not like we blew you out of the water in any of these matchups.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them, we had the first game 2 years ago, we couldn't punt one time. If we punted one time in that football game, we would have lost to you guys. And last year was a very similar game to the other year prior, not quite as much scoring, but I thought it was very much the same way, where a break here, a break there, a ball bounces this way, a ball bounces that way, and you guys get the win on it. So it's by no means are we walking into this going, oh yeah, we own Detroit. It's gonna be a fight. We're gonna walk out maybe losing an eye.
Right. And we feel that way. We feel like we are salty about it, like really. And it's just, I think, like I was saying in one of my videos, like it's just something about y'all, man. Like it's the Russell Wilson days, like all the team seems different. Like it seems different. It seems like it's got a different type of swag to it. I don't know if Gino brings that, but it's like we are ready to win, and we feel like there's a monkey on our back, and that monkey is the Seattle Seahawks. And it's time to like get that monkey. And don't forget about Russell Wilson's last year, put up a 50 burger on us. I mean, granted, I think we had Tim Boyle as quarterback or something like that. But it's kind of like, because that was the year before. So it's been 3 years, and then you go back to the playoff game. So it's kind of like, I think we got a bad taste in our mouth. So we might come a little hard, man, for real.
That's why they say, just even in a given season, they say it's hard to beat a single NFL team 3 times in a year because of that sort of spirit that you'll drive up. I think that's can definitely apply here, even though it's over a 3-year period, because they just has back to back to back, and it's been early in the year every time. So I think it's going to be in the minds of the players as well as not just the fans here. I think that there's going to be a bit of a, let's get this team. Let's defend our house. It's in your house too. You're not on the road. I think we're going to get your guys' best punch, especially being prime time. You're always going to get that. I like that though, that it's not a 10 a.m. game. So we can at least be maybe fully up to the height of whatever powers we can be at to try to match you guys. But no doubt about it, we're going to get your best punch. And you guys are, you're looking across the board at you guys on from PFFs to standard stats to just any analytic stuff. You guys are looking strong across things. There's a couple little things here and there that you can kind of pick up, like maybe some of the coverage stuff, but from run defense to how you run the ball to how you're rushing the passer, very good numbers across the board. And what you're looking at with this team, ancillary numbers that just indicate that, this is a team that you guys were hoping could be kind of a Super Bowl contender coming into this year. And so far this year, 2-1, I think there's nothing yet that's been dissuaded from that. The injury front's always one to pay attention to, because that can throw up anyone's season into disarray. You never know when it's like the short end of the stick, where somebody's going to get it every year. You never know who's going to be that team. We're going through our share too a little bit, but you kind of got yours as just like a bump a little bit there at the end. The way this is rolled, it feels a little bit like an avalanche there when it happens like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And like I said, we haven't really been at last time I remember us, Dan Campbell said 2021, we went through it, but that season was tough. I mean, we just coming from Matt Patricia, new coach, new GM, new quarterback, and our roster was like the mystery man. We didn't know we had, guys thrown away from other teams coming to form basically the core of what our team is now. But you said 10 a.m. and that caught me off guard, because I'm like, 10 a.m. Don't you mean 1? So it's kind of weird to hear that, man. But I think that's cool. You guys get started early, but at the end of the night, you're watching Sunday Night Football at 5 o'clock. When it's over for me, I'm on my way to bed.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It's and we point to it sometimes because it's been a problem not only for just Seattle teams but West Coast teams going out to East, and it's not kind of this. It's not the same flipping it the other way. In that if your body clock's at 10 a.m. morning time, you're not performing at your athletic best. They've even done scientific study on this stuff to test like when you're at your best during the day and when you're, and it just is what it is. We've been able to deal with it. It's not a horrible problem. It's just nicer to deal with it on the other end of being able to, okay, everybody's awake. Everybody's, we're not still drinking our coffee right before the game, trying to get like up and rolling a little bit. So it's good to see on that side of it. When we flip it over to the offensive side of the ball, my outlook a little bit on what happened with you guys early on this year with it is that Ben got a little bit too wild and free with it. He got his Warlock hat on. He had his little wand. He was waving every which way, and maybe got a little bit too wild with it in game 2, 54 passing attempts, too much passing, too much let's spread out. Hey, let's get this Jameson kid. He's ready to roll finally. Let's go. And maybe it was a little bit more of dialing it back down to, hey, 2 tight end sets this week, put the hard hat on. We're going to run the ball. We're not going to have Jared throwing it all over the place. A little bit more back to a core identity kind of game from an offensive standpoint. Is that a accurate outlook on it?
Yeah. And it's something that Lions fans don't like to hear, but I also think that we severely missed Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds had gone his whole career not playing only just 7 games with Jared Goff. From the time he came into the NFL. And somebody in my comment section said it the best. Said Jamison Williams is a burner, Josh is a technician, and we severely miss him. So we're hoping that Tim Patrick can kind of fill that void to some extent. And as far as getting away from the run, that's what we're all saying. Why are you having Jared Goff throw the ball 55 times? I can't even remember the last time that happened. David Montgomery said after the game Sunday, we got back to running the ball. And David Montgomery is that guy. Lean on him, change of pace back with Jahmyr Gibbs, who is took his rookie year, took everybody by storm. I mean, we know what we were getting, but I think a lot of the league apparently did not. But we got back to it. And now with Tim Patrick being in there, and hopefully Ben has learned his lesson. Like, that's one thing that we've said about Ben Johnson is something will be working and then we'll stop. And it's usually the run game. We're running, 3rd down and 2. Now we're going to change it up. And it's like, just get the first down, fight another a day. And so hopefully Ben has kind of got it together, man. And we also have severe third quarter woes as well. We did not score a single point after halftime. And that is one thing that we cannot allow to happen this Sunday or this Monday at 8:15. We have to, because I feel like you guys, with the firepower that you have, Kenneth Walker, and you've got DK and Jackson and Tyler, who's still doing it at a high level, even though he's been in the league, 10 years now, something like that. Mm-hmm. So we have to be able to make sure that we score points. We cannot, three points is a field goal is 3 points closer to a loss. We went 1 for 7 in week 2. That's why we lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We score one of those times, we win the game. So we have to be able to finish. And a lot of that's going to fall on Jared Goff and Ben Johnson.
I have to think that running the ball for their standpoint, looking at the Seahawks defense coming in too, because this is a bit of the part of the new wrinkle to this matchup we have to discuss a little bit, Derek. And let me make sure I don't get too far by my donos, because I always get behind on this stuff. Be calm, see clearly. Thank you for the $2 donation. It says Hawks versus Lions. Prove it game for both teams. #Go Hawks. I don't know if it's a prove it game for you guys as much as it's a prove it game for us. I know you want this win, but I think you guys have played well to start out this year. You've had 2 straight years of being legitimate. I think you guys have secured your place a little bit more than us, who have a little bit more to have to kind of prove in this respect, especially with the easier schedule that we've had to begin the year. What about you?
You know, I see what you mean. I think for Lions fans, it's a lot of where we went last year, and a lot of people think that we were ahead of schedule. I myself don't, but I think that for us, it's more of a, okay, can we beat Seattle? And Seattle is, in all regards, in my opinion, a good team. I mean, you guys missed the playoffs last year, right? And then I think the year before that, it was the one where we needed you guys to lose. But again,
you guys helped us out.
Yeah,
you did us a favor in that year.
I know. And
thank you, Detroit.
I know. We're sitting there watching like, come on, man. But again, it came down to that game in early part of the season. We win that game. We have the tiebreaker. We go. But I think that because you guys are 3-0, because of the monkey that is on our back, which is Seattle, we need to win. And I think if we lose this game, drop to 2-2, a lot of expectations. We haven't lost 2 in a row in almost 2 years. And I think it will go a long way. And even though we've coming off a win, it will go a long way if we beat Seattle to say, okay, you know what? We're making strides. We finally beat this team after years of trying. Very similar how the Bucs did after 2 losses. They finally got their win. So I don't think it would be the end of the world at 2-2. But with the Vikings doing as well as they're doing, I think this would go a long way. Just saying, you know what? Okay, we had a rough start. Offense isn't clicking, but we're getting it together, and we finally beat Seattle. I think that's where we're at.
It's a fair point. It certainly is something that would galvanize you going forward off of it. I do think that no matter what happens to you guys with us in this game, that you're in the mix throughout the season. I still think Vikings are a little bit of fool's gold here as we go. And I think it's between kind of more you and the Packers, and some of that will come down to maybe how you guys play each other as we really get into this year when it gets tight. But great points. Jeffrey Thistle, thank you for the $5 donation. There's a reason the Rams gave away Goff for a ham sandwich afterthought in the stat pad for trade. We're going to remind you why.
Hey,
well, trash talk starting. Here we go.
Hey, Jeff, listen, man, it is what it is. You guys have you know, it's funny because a lot of Lions fans feel the same way. I mean, here it is that they followed Stafford to LA. You had the Detroit Rams. I am not one of those people. I believe in Jared Goff, and I think you give him a line, you give him time, he can win you games. He also he sometimes he can get a little careless with the ball, and I think that's where the Jared Goof comes out that people like to call him. But You guys saw him a lot, right? Being with the Rams. And, I believe in him. He has to, what he has to not do is turn the ball over. He had a really bad, I know when he came to us in 2021, I think he led the league in like turnovers between interceptions and fumbles. He's gotten that fumble problem together a lot. But yeah, I mean, you get what, 2 1s, a third, and Jared Goff, and yeah, they basically threw him away. So it's up to Jared Goff to prove himself, and I think he's done that to some extent. But he made it to the big game, had one of the worst offensive performances like that I remember seeing for that team. So a lot of this falls on him, but it's up to him, man. I believe in him, and yeah, man, we'll see you Monday night.
I think this is where it's one of the hot debates, man, I'm sure you get a little bit with this Goff thing surrounding you, is the view of the quarterback. And you either have this guy or you don't. And if you don't, and the people be anti-Goff would say you don't have him. And so you're never going to get anywhere with that. It's like, well, that guy's been to a Super Bowl. He was within a hair last year of getting you guys back into that spot. And then what are we saying about him at that point? It's, well, if he doesn't get the wins in the Super Bowls, he's not good enough to get you the Super Bowls. I'm more of a guy that's about, we've gotten too much into and I bring this up because I like to hear all the content creators that I bring this up to their takes. This has kind of been a stock thing I've been asking, where number one, if you agree with the take on these quarterbacks are sort of viewed as sort of these star basketball players, where just throw them the ball out in the wing, let them just one-on-one a guy and then get past, where it's more about the supporting cast to me. It's more about, that's from the coaching on down to the scheme, on down to the offensive line and how it's all of that together in the mix. And it's a more complicated picture to drive, but if you can understand that complicated picture, you can understand it's not the guy out there on the wing half in a dribble, that you can do this with the supporting cast. And I think you guys are a representation of that. And it's one of the reasons I have faith for us here in Geno Smith, where some people don't, where they go, nope, not the guy, is what he is. New York days, bust. Where do you stand on that?
I agree with you. And I've supported Jared. I used to watch him in LA all the time. And when he would come on, and I remember it. And Detroit Lions fans seem to forget that he took Patrick Mahomes to the wire. I mean, 54-51, he came on top, right? So I agree with you. And I don't know what it is with Detroit Lions fans in particular. We had a guy, Matthew Stafford, and we know what he's capable of. We've seen it. And you mentioned supporting cast. He had Calvin Johnson. The 1 year that we had the most complete team that we've had in a long time, we went into Dallas in 2014, and you know what happened there. So for us, it's been that supporting cast. I just think, Brandon, they just don't like him. I just think, it's just a thing. They just don't like him. And then Stafford goes and wins with his team. Okay, now you bring in Von Miller, Odell Beckham. So it wasn't like you just brought in Stafford now, right? So you bring in Stafford, he wins. So it even demeans Jared Goff even more. I believe in him. I wish Detroit Lions fan, this guy takes us to the NFC title game. And you know what? They want to blame him as the reason we lost, when our defense gave up 17 consecutive points unanswered. I'm sitting there in Levi Stadium and I'm pinching myself because I'm like, there's no way we're a half hour away from the Super Bowl for our first one ever, and we're dominating a team that everybody thought was going to spank us, including myself, right? So it's like we have to look at it like you said. This is a team sport, and that's one thing Dan Campbell preaches. He said, "You're good enough for Detroit, Jared." And I wish I could get Detroit Lions fans to, I understand how Rams fans feel, and it didn't help that Stafford wins the Super Bowl, but Jared Goff, man, is a very capable quarterback, and we put him in the right situation. And people act like, I tell you what they want. They want Jared Goff to win them the game. I deal with this. I made a video today about what is it that Jared Goff has to do. They want him to be able to take a game over. There's not a lot of quarterbacks that can do that. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. You could argue Lamar Jackson, right? But for all that greatness that Lamar has, he's never been to a Super Bowl, which Jared Goff has. Just tells you how sometimes it takes more, right? And Jared Goff is a surgeon, man, with the ball when he's on. If he's off, it's a nightmare, right? So Jared Goff has it. The Detroit Lions general manager Brad Holmes said, hey, we're going to put the pieces around you, and they're doing that. I just wish Lions fans would give them a little bit more time.
I fight the same battle over here when it comes to a guy like Geno Smith, and it's a hard. I don't know if you make a lot of ground in it, but it doesn't mean you're not right. Doesn't mean you're not right. That's all I'm saying. It's and this is what I like about it with both of our two teams taking this approach. By the way, is that everybody else is zigging here. Everybody else is zigging that way. And that everybody's going with that that lemming herd, going over the cliff where they're all just get the quarterback, He'll be everything. And they aren't paying attention to kind of the rest as much with that same kind of energy. And I think that this leads to teams just hoping for the magic man who's the messiah at the position who's going to solve all, rather than, to me, go and build it this way. We wouldn't won a Super Bowl doing this. I mean, Russell Wilson's fantastic. And when he was in his prime, I think he was playing like a top 3 quarterback in the sport. But when he was just first coming in, when we got to back-to-back Super Bowls, he was not, he was into that more game manager with some great mobility mode and a guy that could be clutched down the line. All those were good traits, but it wasn't perfect. It wasn't magic man. It wasn't miracle man. And you got there. So why not that path being a viable one for teams like you and ours? I ask.
100%. I agree. And I think that's one of the things with the NFL is we call it the shiny new toy. Like when Lamar Jackson was going through his free agent thing, and Lions fans, they have been ready to dump Goff since he got here. And I just don't know, Brandon, what he needs to do. I mean, here it is. We're half hour away from the Super Bowl. That's closer than we ever came with Matthew Stafford. And that's no knock to Stafford. I know, Stafford is reckless, but we can see what he does, right? And you put a team around him, defense and offense. What does he do? He wins a Super Bowl. He won it. You could argue that maybe Penei Sewell should have been a pick, maybe over Jamar Chase. But if you don't have Jamar Chase, do you get as far as you are if you're the Bengals? But you got Aaron Donald making a play of the game, right? So Stafford had a lot of help to get there and win that thing. And only one team wins it per year, right? So I agree. I like that, everybody else is what they're doing. And I think Detroit, they want to see. I really don't know. Lamar, everybody wanted Lamar, everybody but me. I'm like, I don't want him. I'm build the team around a guy who can win. This guy's been to a Super Bowl. What more do you want? Yeah,
well, it's the widest at times, and I love Lamar. I do think he's a game-changing quarterback. I do think that Lamar's a guy that is different when you get into January and February in the elements, and especially when you get great teams in the playoffs playing him that have defenses capable of forcing him to do what he doesn't want to do. And there are things that I think that aren't Lamar is as comfortable in doing as others, and he's developed and he's come forward as a quarterback as far as a passer in the pocket from where he started. But there are still limitations that are even our Mike McDonald last year against the Kansas City Chiefs and Ravens game, not our Mike McDonald, but the Chiefs put to out on the display, namely making him push the ball down the field. It's kind of like Kyler in this last game. It comes out last week and he's 6 for 6 and not against you guys, but then in the prior week, and he comes into this game, I think he's 1 for 7 on big time throws down the field against you guys in this game. And that's how I would still want to force Kyler to beat me. Force him. Don't let him run. Don't let them run. Don't let him use his legs. Make him get down the field. And because I think that's where you can get him a little limited. He's got the arm strength. Lamar's got the arm strength, but do they have the timing, the precision? Can they put it with enough arc? Can they put it in the right spot down the field? I question that sometimes with them. So but you're right. Your frustration is my frustration. I deal with the same thing here where people are looking for that guy, and I get the new shiny toy, like you say, but it's also appreciate what you got. And it doesn't have to be too. It can be not mutually exclusive where you say Stafford is a little bit better quarterback than Goff, but Goff is still a quarterback that can get you to a Super Bowl and win it. I don't think it has to be an either or kind of concept.
I agree. I think Stafford he's the warrior. Dude has been hit. Jared Goff has barely been touched as a Lion, but this dude dislocates shoulders and, broken back and all of this stuff. And he is at 36, still has a cannon, right? Sidearm, all this other stuff. And Stafford is, a lot of Detroit Lions fans didn't appreciate him either. It was Pat Stafford and all this other stuff. But, here's the thing. We're winning. You guys are winning. Geno Smith, man, to see his resurgence is pretty cool. Sitting behind Russell and just kind of waiting his turn, man. And it was kind of cool to see you guys invest in him after what he's been through. And you see quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson, what they're going through over there. And then what Baker Mayfield is doing. You know what I mean? So, I like to see what you guys are going through, but this coming Monday, man, I hope he throws a bunch of interceptions.
We'll see. It's going to be on his arm to get it done. So, yeah. I mean, if your Lions are going to put that run game to bed, I think a little bit for us, at least early on, and maybe we can kind of wear it down through the game, but then it's on his arm and your guys, can you get to the passer? Can you do that? We got some pass protection issues on top of that he's been dealing with. And so there's going to be some, I think, openings there. So, and these are sport, like you mentioned, these names, Goff or Mayfield or Geno, these are players we should root for, man, from a fan standpoint, because it didn't come easy to him necessarily. I know Brad and Mayfield's number 1 overall pick at one time, but they all had to kind of work their way back. Nothing's being just sort of handed to them on this side of it. And they've done so. So it's kind of worth lauding and appreciating, but I don't think everybody's opinion's probably set in your Detroit camp on Goff. Me and my people have their opinion set, and he could be raising the trophy, and they still, I don't know. I just don't think he's still the guy.
That's exactly. I'm already calling it. It's exactly what would happen. First, the Lions are the only NFC team that's never been to a Super Bowl. And if Jared Goff takes him there, he don't even have to win it. He takes us there. It still won't be enough. So, I hope that eventually for him and him making a Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl for the city of Detroit, I know it'll be huge for us, and he'll be cemented in the legacy of Detroit. Like, no matter what people try to take away from him, he'll always have that. He will always be the first quarterback to bring the Detroit Lions to just a Super Bowl, let alone winning one. So, that'll speak for itself, if Goff can make that happen.
I think it's true, especially since Stafford never got you close in his time there. And I know it's not all his fault at that time, different team, different coach, different, all that stuff, but hopefully at that point they would lot him there. Jeffrey, thank you for another $5 donation. It says payback for sending Stat Padford to our division to make us eat our lunch every year is coming. Lions offensive line is the strongest part of their team by a mile. Yeah, and indeed the Stafford setup. Did you see the one play that I thought was kind of interesting that showed McVay on a little bit of his decision making between Goff and Stafford? It was a play from a couple years ago showing the same play being run by the Lions with Goff at quarterback and then showing Stafford running the play at quarterback. There's this interesting little, if you go look it up, it's a really interesting play. This kid did a breakdown on Twitter on it where it's the same route run where Goff goes to the play where it's supposed to go. The play's technically open, but the go route downfield to Cooper Kupp over the top is also open. And then you see with Goff, he takes the throw. It's open, he takes it. And then they flash to Stafford and he takes the shot over the top in the Super Bowl against the Bengals on the same kind of play. Very interesting play, just showing a bit of the difference of player. Again, just not Goff wasn't making a bad decision or bad mistake. And again, just to button up your last point on this, when you come out of that conference championship game, what is the play that stands out that's okay, the brutal play for the Lions? Is it Goff throwing an interception? Is it Goff fumbling the ball? Or is it the ball ricocheting off of the hands of a Lions defender into the hands of Brandon Ayuk for a touchdown? Because from my standpoint, that's the play that, and that's, you mentioned the 17-point loss at the end. Like, this should be what, as a fan, sitting in your head more than it is about what the quarterback did in this game, especially if the offense was productive against a 49ers defense that wasn't allowing nothing to happen last year. So again, more to your point on that, in my opinion. But,
yeah. I'll just kind of put the button on it too. The Brandon Ayuk, for Lions fans, that was the changing point in the game. The reason we lost was Josh Reynolds. If you ask any Lions fan, because he couldn't catch the ball. Nobody talks about the 17 points. Nobody talks about Ben Johnson getting away from the running game. What was working? Nobody talks about that. And to your point about Stafford versus Goff and the same play breakdown, that's exactly what the complaint is with Lions fans. We have a guy like Jamison Williams, or this guy is open, or Sam Laporta is open, or this guy is open, but we'll feed it to make a completion, score a touchdown. But it was, wait a minute, Jamison Williams was wide open over there, or here's Jahmyr Gibbs in the flat wide open. And it's for everything Stafford is, and he's a great quarterback. It pains me to say that because I have not forgiven Stafford. But he can be reckless with the football. He can. Yeah. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But if I think it was Jamar Chase had Jalen Ramsey absolutely cooked. And if Aaron Donald is not in his face, that might have been a walk-in touchdown for those guys. So, one play, one way, and Stafford might not be a Super Bowl champion, but he is, and we're still trying to get to our first one. So, yeah, it's not all on Goff.
How about the fact they didn't call a holding call defensively in that secondary that whole game, and then they give the Rams one at the end?
Yeah.
That too. It's like that. And then he's a Super Bowl loser like Goff is. And then what? What do the people say at that point? Again, back to your point on that. So I agree with you. And I do think that Goff can get it done. And again, it's I also, that Stafford point is completely true. He's going to give you 2 throws a game. He will give you 2 throws a game where you're going to have a chance to pick it off and maybe change the trajectory of that game. Goff might not give you 2 throws a game. Goff might be very, very careful and selecting where he's putting it and still be proficient and effective in that role of it. So bit of a difference as well on the good side to Goff on that, in my opinion, on Flick. Jeffrey, thank you for that double donation. I appreciate you for that. Ski Nation, thank you for the $10 drop. Really kind of you. And folks, as well, I put down the description link of the description link of the video below, a direct link to the Lions Syndicate. Now, we all do this always the same way, okay? So let's show love here for Derrick. He's coming into our house. The least we can do of him taking busy time out of his day. Go back to his channel, sub on up over there at the Lions Syndicate. The link is right down there in the description section below. So please do click that. Do what we do here. Show him the love as he's kind enough to go over here and take his time, man. Man's busy. He's got kids. He's trying to go to the dentist. Like, he's still taking the time. So let's show him that love. Ski Nation says, I like the Lions a lot, which makes it sad to play them. It makes me sad that we're going to get that 3-0 hat trick. I love you, Detroit Lions. Forever our little brothers that can't beat us up. We're just doing that move, man. We just got the head on the forehead, arm on the forehead, lock it out. Got that reach.
Man.
You know?
Hey, I love these guys. I love this is what makes fandom fun. I mean, you try not to be biased, but you can't help yourself, right? So, we have to overcome the Seattle Seahawks. There's no doubt about it. And winning this game would go a long way for, I think, the players, especially with the injuries that we're dealing with. So it's going to be rocking at Ford Field, man. So I hope you got that silent count ready, because it is going to be, I mean, we're going to be a little bit maybe like the 11th and a half men. You know what I mean? Like we're starting to get
11 and 3/4.
Yeah, we're starting to get quite the reputation at Ford Field, man. And so you guys are going to be ready. But hey, I can't listen until we get that dub. I really don't have anything to say, man. We got to make it happen.
I still got my favorite clip, which is one of my favorite clips I keep on my library, is the back in the 80s. We caused a rule change they were calling flags on being too loud at that time for a short period of time. But I've got a clip actually from when they're enforcing it on your Lions fans in the stadium. So cool moment here. If you don't continue to be loud, we will flag the defense. It's just a surreal kind of moment you watch when you see
that's in the Silver Dome. You're talking about 80,000 people with a dome, and it was loud. I went a couple times. I do got to thank your Seattle Seahawks for the upset over I don't know if it was an upset, but beating the Green Bay Packers on the way to the Super Bowl that year. Cannot stand them. I was happy Green Bay beat Dallas after what we went through. And then I was hoping you guys beat Green Bay. And I think it was, who was that?
Hail Mary?
Curse? The curse that came through.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Curse on the end.
Yeah.
Against the Casino Blitz. Yeah.
Yeah, man. What a catch. And so that's probably like the biggest, when I was just like, you know what, Seahawks, it's love. But now it's time to, we all out of bubble gum, man. We came here.
No more love.
We all out of bubble gum.
Well, I love it. And it's going to be a really fun matchup doing this as we go through. Thank you again, Ski Nation, for the donation. I think it's going to be a great matchup, which is just a well-fought game, clean game. Hopefully we can come out as healthy, as we're both walking into this a little wounded as well on our side of it. I don't know who's more kind of beat up, or you guys maybe a little bit. I think we've got some more maybe serious ones. You guys got more overall that you guys can kind of fight through. But I want to get to this offensive matchup a little bit with you, Derrick, because last year your Detroit Lions went into Baltimore, like my Seattle Seahawks went into Baltimore, and Mike McDonald pulled down the pants of both of our offenses and wore our butt out, wore them out. I mean, is that enough? No, not enough. Like unrelenting. Do you look at this game and that he did something with you guys specifically last year, or was just the Ravens a monster? He a part of that monster last year being in how they're playing 3 Triple Crown defensive winners they were? Or is there something that McDonald saw against Ben Johnson in their sort of chess match going back and forth here?
Man. Wow, I had to contain myself after that. So a couple things. Lions had 7 starters, I think, that were injured. Jahmyr Gibbs, we were still trying to get him going. And we just didn't get off the plane. So I don't want to take anything away from him, but I mean, let me tell a quick story. So I tweeted, make Lamar pass equal win. I'm not very fond of Lamar Jackson or the Ravens fans. I just put it like that. So I tweet that, right? Worst thing I could have done. It gets picked up by one of these aggregate sites. They retweet it. They tell everybody to bookmark it. And what does he do? He winds up having his best passing game. I think it might have been of his career or top 3, and just destroyed us. And so I'm still living that down. But I think that it was just it was one of those games. Like it might have been something he was doing, but I think with the starters being out, we were outside, and it just wasn't our day. And you kind of felt that when you came out, and you're like, man, this is ugly. And this is going to be ugly real quick. But again, the Ravens just were sack artists, and their defense is relentless. So, we had to overcome 7 starters being out and then go up against that defense. And I just think that day was not our day. And at 38-6, I will not forget. And yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think a lot of it had to do with it just wasn't our day. we had a bad day, as the song says.
We had the same day. We sung that same song. We were out there on the same thing. It's like, what just happened? Like one of those games where what happened?
Yeah.
Like that was wild. And hard to say if it is same from our same place where we just that bad, or was it just part of the reason we hired the guy though was a little bit of what he was doing to not only us, but across the league on that. And I think when I look at the matchup of your offense, I think they want to apply again of what they did here with the Arizona Cardinals a bit on this to stay out of that passing game as much as possible. And I'd like to see what you think on this. Big part of what Johnson does is those option routes, where we're both going to read the leverage. And I think as you mentioned, some of the fans being, I think, frustrated with Williamson and maybe not targeting some of the other guys on this play. When I understand what the option route play is, that if I'm locking into a receiver on an option route, I'm going to go to on the play. I kind of got to stay on that receiver so that I can make sure that I'm reading the right leverage that they're reading at the same time, to then get the ball to the right spot where they're going to settle down to the right spot and throw it. And if I'm trying to kind of boom, 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 it's not as easy to run that option route stuff. Is my read on Johnson and his use of that? Because I feel like he's one of the higher users of the option route game out there of anybody out there offensively in the league.
Yeah. You know what? And I think with Ben Johnson is, like I mentioned earlier, it's that, but it's also getting away from what works. And we have to, I think a big part to this game is going to be the use of Jameson Williams. I mean, he kind of took a back seat. And like you said, it seemed like when we were getting him involved, we would lock in on him. I mean, and we are trying to, Jameson Williams can be not just a guy, not a jag, but the guy, right? So I think that Ben Johnson has to stick with what works. He has to also tone down the creativity where it's to the point, stay creative, but stay committed. You know what I mean? So if the run is working, stay committed and then hit him with the play action pass. You know what I'm saying? And I think for us, man, we've got it. Like DK Metcalf was a guy I wanted on the Detroit Lions when he was approaching potentially free agency. Now I'm not so sure. He's still a stud, but I don't know if he fits kind of what we're trying to do. I know, he's kind of in the headlines quite a bit. So, but he's still a monster. Dude is an absolute monster. And I am to the point of wondering who's going to stop this guy. Like, and very similar to how I was saying this in my preview show, we can let a guy eat. We can let a guy go off. We let Justin Jefferson go off 200 some yards a couple years ago and we still won. Right. But we have to be able to contain Geno Smith. We got to watch a lot. It's just, you guys got a lot of weapons. And I think we have to be able to, if we can do what we did to Kyler with Geno, because Geno will kill us with his feet as well, which is a problem that we've had going into this year. Then it might be a long day. It might be, but I'm wondering who's going to be on Big DK because dude is big. And I'm wondering, is it going to be the veteran in Carlton Davis? Is it going to be the rookie, Terrion Arnold, who was dealing with some injury? But whatever it is, man, I hope our pass rush can get to you guys, get through that offensive line, man, because I think that'll help us a lot.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see how Detroit plays it. A little bit of a different way they've used DK than they've used him before. As DK is one of your more higher rated double-teamed receivers in the league. He's always in the top 10, sometimes top 5, sometimes number 2 one year in his double-team rate. And when you play the guy at the X on the outside, it's easier to bracket that coverage up with the safety over the top. But when you start to move him in motion like they've done this year, when you start to put DK into the slot like they've done this year, as you see with Amon St. Brown, it's harder to double those slot guys with the two-way go routes and all of that stuff. You can't bracket them kind of as easy or cleanly. And so I think you're going to see a bit of that in this game and challenging Detroit, who's going to, I think to your point, going to want to try to double up DK a little bit on this. But then how do you do that if he starts to go on the move a little bit like that? Like the New England game where he took the top off the defense. He's doing that from the slot on a go route, which prior years he wouldn't have done that. And I think that it just puts defenses into a pickle. If you're having a guy travel, okay, does he still travel with them into the slot? Some outside corners don't like to go into the slot. They're more, hey, I'm an outside corner guy. So we will challenge you in that way. I think we will get our share of points. I think your team will do a good job of holding up the run game because that's been inconsistent for us. I think you're going to get some pressure, which is timely pressure that, now you can get a fumble. You can force Geno into a bad decision as last week. He had a bad decision forced by some of that pressure in his own end zone. So I think I'm pretty confident you defensively will be able to hold the line enough where it won't be a replay of the last couple of years necessarily where it was a sort of a boat race with both of our teams. I think it's you controlling the clock. And then I don't know if this is the week to try to go at Jameson Williams, because I think you're going into a bit of our teeth of our defense, especially if it's to push the ball down the field against him. I'd be living with Amon St. Brown. I'd be living on some of the shorter routes and then just lean on that running game, because we have struggled. Ramondre Stevenson went off against us. Week 1, we did okay. Last week was a little bit better, but that's where, especially now, we're going to be down Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, probably not playing this week. So we're going to be light up front up there. If I'm a Johnson, a replay of this last week, we're 2-1 in the run to pass rate. We're coming downhill on your guys. I think that you can be effective that way. And then you control the ball. Then you keep our offense off the field and then make your timely throws and work off the play action with Goff, who's really good off that stuff too.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing about JMO. We don't always have to go deep. Like a lot of times it seems like we are like, oh, you see a highlight, we went deep to JMO. But a lot of times it's that intermediate stuff. And that's what we're going to be missing with Josh Reynolds. Hopefully Tim Patrick and Tim Patrick could be a wild card. I don't know. I don't know. But as far as Jameson Williams, man, we use him in a lot of creative ways. He really didn't go. I mean, he didn't even really get targeted that much in the previous game, and we won, so I think Ben Johnson, he has to have a balance of creativity and also not getting away from what is working, but trying something new at the same time, like throwing the defense off a little bit. And I think that we're going to have to stick with what's been working is our run game. I mean, it's top notch, right? But Frank Ragnow, if he doesn't go, that could alter that a little bit, because we're going to have Graham there and have another person on that offensive line. So I think that, man, Ben Johnson, one thing about him, he's very lauded, like at the end of the season, he's like the hottest guy and all that stuff. But he has, and if we're going to beat you guys, we got to score in the third quarter. We have to score in the third quarter. One thing I can say is we play you guys tough, but we got to be able to put points in third quarter. We have been talking about third quarter woes for the past 3 or 4 years. And last week, we did not score at all, let alone in the third quarter. But we have the most atrocious third quarter. It will be rolling. And then that's what happened in the NFC title game. Like, where is our offense at? It's like we go in the locker room and it was like, you know what? We're going to change up everything, get away from what's working, come out 3 and out. And then it's like, where did the offense go? Then the defense is out there too long. And now we're trailing. So Ben Johnson got to get that third quarter together.
Yeah, it's adjustments, right? You come out of halftime. I know they don't like to make too much about it. Well, you only have so much time in halftime adjustments. Well, something's happening, So is it, you're either not doing something or you need to be doing something, one of the two on this, because it's a trend when it goes like that. And maybe that'll be the thing to really keep an eye on with this, because one of the better things McDonald's done with his defense coming out of halftime is those adjustments, including last year, what he did with the Chiefs, where Chiefs in that conference championship game were able to get a little bit going. Then he shut them down soon into that second half, not a single point scored. So maybe that will be as much a bit of the key here. You mentioned your 2 running backs. I think you might have, if not the best 1-2 punch in football, very close to right now the best 1-2 punch in football between Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And sort of the ideal a lot of teams are chasing. We're trying to do the same thing with Walker Charbonnet, the Thunder and Lightning. And Montgomery, you watch it last week, absolutely just committed to running physically and getting downhill. He's not messing around. He's not going to dance. He's going to get downhill. And then you get Gibbs, who looks like he's added some really good weight this offseason, by the way. I mean, he looks much better built. Maybe I'm just a little bit that second year, been in a weight room up for an offseason. And boy, he was very impressive against the Cardinals with that explosiveness and acceleration, and just throws defenses off, doesn't it? You get the hammer, and you're kind of getting set for that hammer to hit you as you're getting downhill. And then all of a sudden the guy's flying by you and it's Gibbs, because you didn't maybe pay attention on a given play to, is it Gibbs or Montgomery in that backfield? You got to be on that P and Q between the difference of them, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And again, that goes to Ben Johnson and sticking to what works. But he does like to change it up. But when you don't know what you're going to get, like David stretch it out too. You know what I mean? And Jahmyr run through the tackles. So I believe you. I believe that we have, if not the best, one of the best, top 3 for sure. And it's just a matter of how we're going to use these guys. Because one thing we noticed last week is it seemed like early on they were alternating series. And David Montgomery is one of those guys that he gets stronger as the game goes on, it seems like. And when somebody pointed out in the comment section, like maybe they're trying to save him for that fourth quarter, where they're really going to lean heavily on him, right? So when we need those tough yards and things like that, and I don't know if you saw the play where the defensive lineman picked him up, and then the Lions come behind him and push him for another 5 yards. It was
on air, babe.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even know if that was legal, but hey, they counted, and he said he was just laughing. So yeah, we'll see if Ben Johnson, like I said, Brandon, I think it's going to really come down to this third quarter and that second half. The Lions usually will come out hot, even on, well, we're at home this time, but they'll come out hot. And I know that crowd is going to be on fire. Eminem's going to be playing, right? He might even be there. So, but we've got to keep that momentum to the second half. So I expect if we do win the toss that the Lions will defer for the second half and try to set the tone on defense is what I expect them to do, because the defense, we've only allowed 53 points, and that's big for our defense. We've been waiting on it to be top 15 for a while, and it looks like we've made those adjustments, and we could be headed for a pretty good defense by year's end.
Yeah, you can see where they've really put this defense together in a slow but nice fashion, leading with physicality. Ozarike, I like the pick with him out of UW a couple years ago, where in college they're playing him as a one tech. You got a more kind of three techish at times, I think, but he also then gives you a little bit of that run stuffing ability you wouldn't get from a three tech. You brought in DJ Reader from the Bengals, who's been a very solid defensive tackle for them for years to help kind of round out in some of that inside. And then Aiden Hutchinson's an absolute monster, defensive player of the year candidate, no doubt about it, off that edge, just a pressure machine and a good overall player, as well. So we're going to have our test here against it. I think we can find some points because we're so good offensively that we will hit you in bunches with it. But if you guys can control the clock, if you can keep that consistency up through the game where you don't fall off and have it just get stopped, like you say in that second half, it'll be a long day at the office for us. Because watch you guys against the Cardinals with 23 carries to Montgomery, to your point on saving him for the end. Well, he ends up with 23, but you still end up with, I think, with like 16 back to Jahmyr Gibbs. That's not even taking into account what they did as pass catchers out of the backfield. So, if you get that Lion team that's in that point where Ben's like, I'll just run it if it's there, we might have a hard time with that, where there's some holes in this running game, especially because we're light defensive tackle-wise coming in. Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, a big target of what we want to do and stopping the run. And now it's Jonathan Hankins and Jaron Reed instead inside. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a difference, even with you maybe moving. I think Frank's going to go, though, man. I think he's going to be like, just put some Toradol on it. Just rub some Toradol on it. It'll be fine.
I think, he wants to go. If it was up to him, he's going. But like Dan Campbell was on the radio today and said, we're going to do what's best for him and the team, but he's stubborn. He wants to play. And you got to be careful though, Brandon, because you rip that thing. If Frank rips it, he's done. I mean, you're talking about, because we had CJ Gardner-Johnson rip it in week 2. He was able to defy all odds and come back in week 17. So Frank, I don't think they take that chance with him. I think Frank the Tank will be on the bench for this game. I truly believe that.
I have to think that a partially torn tech can be fully torn, and that it would just take the wrong angle of push on the arm, and then that thing is going to just rip fully out. I would think. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, we've got our bye week after that. So do we want to risk Frank and knowing that he'll have, if he doesn't play this week, you've got the week 5 bye, and then he's back, after 3 weeks, and maybe he'll get the treatment and healing, some ice, maybe the wife can rub it down and he's good to go. Right. So I think he's going to be out, and I think that might alter our game plan a little bit, but I was
just going to say, yeah.
Graham came back, and he's solid at center. He's no Frank Ragnow, but he's solid. And I think it will alter, but I think that, we're really going to see what Ben Johnson is made of. And like I said, man, we have a debt to y'all. It's time to pay y'all, because we still talking about that 2016 playoff game. When Derek, I think it was Cam. Somebody
put it on the tab.
Somebody punched it out of the end zone, and we weren't really in that game. I think it was 28-6. But we were trying to hang on to anything we had.
It was close. It was close through most of that game. That was close. I remember the play, and KJ, instead of grabbing it, should have probably been called for a penalty, because he knowingly knocked it out the
at that point, but it wind up being a blowout, man. It's like we shouldn't have even been there, but so I think it's time, and I think we get the win. I think home field advantage is going to be huge, and I know Ford Field, and they're going to be rocking. So hopefully we get this win, man. It's long overdue.
We got a little donation, but let's then we'll get your exact score. Let's see where you're actually landing on this when it's all said and done. Be calm, see clearly. Thank you for another $2 donation. I appreciate the double donation. It says Lions fans equal light work. We aren't the Cardinals.
Oh man, you guys are awesome.
Hey, everybody, 3-0. People are feeling themselves, and I can't blame them for it. I'm feeling good too, especially because so many nationally saw us as a team with a new coach that sort of did the lazy math and said, okay, well, they'll be bad this year with the new coach. It has to be that way. And so starting out this way, and so many having to kind of eat crow on that, as you got to give them a little bit of room for feeling themselves on that, because everybody predicted it was going to be such a long year for us.
Yeah, I'm not mad at y'all, man. But that, I tell you what, those West Coast teams, that NFC West, I'm telling you, man, from the Rams to the Niners to the because I know about Bang Bang Niner Gang. I don't know, what do you call yourselves? Like, what is the fan base called for the Seahawks?
12th man.
The 12s. I hope y'all are nice people, because the 49ers fans, oh boy, right? So yeah, so I like that y'all feeling yourself, because we can kind of do that too. We kind of getting a little big headed, even though we still got a long way to go.
you guys have earned the right. You've been legitimately really good for a while now, and everybody hates the Niner fans. So that's a universal thing. They're just atrocious. They haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years, but they act like they raised a trophy last season. It's wild.
Yeah, I actually got almost pushed down the stairs by a woman, and then I'm sitting up top, and so the Niners are losing. I know we're overtime, but the Niners are losing. I mean, it is quiet. You can hear everything in that first half, and people are looking at me, and I'm not like rubbing it in their face. I'm sitting there. I'm trying to soak in the moment and wait for this thing to be over, because I've been not there before, but it's like, okay, Lions, finish the job. It's not over yet. The Niners are going to lay down. And so the Brandon Ayuk pass that you spoke of, the man, that was the changing point. And all of a sudden, and I know where Bang Bang Niner Gang sits at in the 400s. That's where they're at. And it is stuff being thrown. I'm getting fluid on me. I don't know what is happening, what kind of body fluid it is. I'm getting people yelling in my face, and I'm sitting there just trying to get over the fact that we blew this opportunity. So I will never forget that. I'm going back to Levi Stadium in December, and I'm gonna be ready for it again. But yeah, I had the worst experience I've ever had at a game at the 49ers. Everything about it, from the tailgate to everything, just people yelling at you in your face. Like, okay, bro, you know what I mean? But when I got bumped by a woman, I'm like, I turn around, man, it's a woman. I'm like, oh, okay. And then her boyfriend, I'm like, yeah, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to watch the game, man. That's all I'm trying to do. So yeah.
Did the woman look at you like what? Did she give you the what look?
She did. She looked like, if you try to do something, my man right here. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? As the game is changing, I have people just finding me and just yelling in Niners. I'm just, it's almost traumatizing in a way, because we had them dead to rights and we blew it. And I still have PTSD from that. And then the experience there. But you know what, bro? I love road games. I like them more than home, because I like that type of stuff. But I think there's a certain line you can cross, and I think they crossed it.
Well, maybe better if you didn't win. You might have been, knifed or something in your back if they had actually won walking out. If it's that way when they win and they're celebratory, what would have been like if you had broken their hearts? Oh my God!
This is one more part to the story. So it was this random Lions fan. She's a woman. She's sitting down in front of me, and she was having a good time. Win or lose, she having a good time. And we're walking out, and people are like harassing me. I got the blue beard and all that stuff. And she pulls me to the side. She was like my temporary wife. She's like, listen, we'll be back. Don't worry. Let all this stuff go, because people are antagonizing, walking down the stairs. And it was just like, bro, we didn't do this to y'all, right? So she just was like, don't worry about it. Let it go. Because people were like throwing stuff, man. Like it was like that. So she just kind of calmed me down. I told my wife about it. I'm like, you were there in spirit, right? Because this woman calmed me down at Levi Stadium, because they were that bad, man. They were that bad. So I'm not surprised. And then, so I'm ready to go back, man. But I hope you guys are. One day I want to go to what is it called? Lumen Field. I want to go there one day, and I hope I have a better experience.
I think we'll be, for the most part. I don't think anybody's throwing anything on you, and I don't. The thing you see about Levi, and you see it also down the LA stadium, frankly, is a lot of fights. All over the place on Twitter and there in those stadiums, and I don't think you see as much in other places. Like I don't see Detroit, somebody being thrown down for down a stair landing at 70 years old or something, like I've seen in some of these things where it's like, really, guys, like a little bit of trash talk's okay. And I get it if you're in a stadium. I've been in a Charger stadium back in the day, and it's one thing they're letting you have. It's another thing when they're trying to cross in the line, physical, throwing stuff on you. And I'm not surprised Niner fans did it. Let me just say that.
It's never supposed to go over to the physical side, to the personal, real, this is real life, man. But we're all, football brings people together, not, create this type of stuff. So yeah.
It just doesn't. And what are you accomplishing? You threw the drink on him? You pushed him? Oh, you feel good? Is that what'd you do? What'd you do? They lost. Like he's already hurting.
Yeah, let me soak in sorrow.
Yeah, let me get over this. My season just went to hell. Super Bowl aspirations in the tank. Let me throw my drink on you. Okay. This is what we're doing now. Jordan, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, don't worry about Niner fans. They are living off almost winning something and worrying about Purdy being a top 5 quarterback. Yeah, they're good news with them is that they're starting to spin out just a little bit. There's little signs of spin out there. The window's almost shut. You know what I'm saying? You get a little creaky, little. It's going down a little bit by bit.
Well, according to some Niner insiders, if they don't win it all this year, it could be change. It could be change in that front office coach and GM. So that's what they're saying, man.
If it is, they're in for a long rebuild if they do, because they're about to have to pay Purdy 55, 60 million. You doing that? You paying 60 million on Purdy?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
No way in hell. But they're going to do it, and they're already buried on their cap situation. So they're looking down the barrel of it, Derek. And I think that this might be kind of their last gasp here if they can. We'll see if they can this year, but they do look a little bit weekend this year, a little bit like they've just played a lot of games. You play all those extra playoff games over a 5-year period. It's like you're putting a whole extra season on your back.
Yeah,
that stuff accumulates because those are different games. Those playoff games are a different style of violence and hitting and getting after it than just your typical Sundays. But thank you. Appreciate it, Jordan. And fun to watch the Niners twist. Hopefully they keep going on that. Derek, I heard you say you think we got this one. I heard you say we owe you. You got receipts. I see receipts in your hand. They're crumpled up, but they're in your hand. All right. Where is the ending score on this one going to finish up when we get to Monday night? We had the scoregami 2 years ago, 48-45. Is that what it was? 48-45, I think.
Yeah, I think
36-31-ish last year.
Yeah. I think it's 37. I think because you guys
37.
won, in overtime. I think it was
trying
31.
to make you feel better on it. I was trying to take the point out.
Oh, man. So I think you're getting around the scores, right?
That's right.
Okay, so I do not do scores. I just think
okay.
I think they're dumb.
Okay.
I just
win or loss. Win or loss is good too.
Okay, so this I might sound biased, and shout out to you guys in the comment section, man. I love this. I might sound biased, but I'm not. Okay, I think that there are things that the Detroit Lions need to do to win this game. I think home field will be in our favor. I think Jared Goff cannot turn the ball over. Ben Johnson cannot get away from what's working. And we have to be able to contain Geno Smith, all right? And we can let one of your guys go off, but we can't let the whole team eat. I think the Lions coming off the win, back at home, and just years of being below the Seahawks. And to tell the truth, man, listen, 2 years ago, I mean, if we beat you, we go to the playoffs, and we're relying on Baker Mayfield, a beat up LA Rams team, and a little help from the referees, and you guys go instead of us, right? So I think the Lions have to play a clean game. I think they have to get Geno Smith. I think they have to contain one of your receivers. All right, they can't let them all eat, and I think we get the win. I think it is going to be tough, and that's non-biased, because if we were playing and that, like, going into this game or week 3, I didn't think we could beat the Texans, and then week 3 happened. So, right, they're beatable. But then again, it's week 3, right? So I think the Lions have to play a clean game, and most importantly, Jared Goff cannot turn the ball over. When he doesn't turn the ball over, we win, and he is notorious for turning the ball over against your team. I think he threw 2 last year. I think one was a pick 6, and kind of got away with one on Sunday. So I think we get the win. It's going to be nasty. I would love a blowout, but I don't think that's going to happen. But we got to do those things to make that happen.
I love your keys on this one. I would tend to agree. I think let's stop in the run. And then when you get back to Goff in that last year, for instance, you sent a corner blitz on a play, got him uncomfortable off the corner blitz, sacked him. You come back the next play, you get some reverberation of that where he's a little forced and rushed on the throw because you run a stack front on him on the very next play to get him a little bit nervous to force that throw. If you let Goff sit back and hit on that back foot and throw it, he can spin it as well as anybody in this league. He can make every NFL big boy throw. He can put it right on the spot. You've got to make him uncomfortable. You've got to make him move his feet. And if you don't do that, you're in for a long day. We've seen that in Seattle before. Both, he's done pretty good with Detroit against us too, but also with the Rams, of course. So I think that's on your point is a good place to get caught on is got to not let him get comfortable.
He hasn't beat you guys with Detroit. I don't think this will be his first win.
He's played pretty well though. He hasn't played bad. Like even with the interception last year, it was a bad play. And there was a couple picks, but it wasn't. I mean, that's like scoregami game. You got to put 45 points.
Yeah, but everybody was like, if he doesn't throw that pick, we win. So he's got to get the monkey off his back.
Yeah, I get it. I get it on that, but I think he's fully capable. Is my point on it. He's just fully capable of doing it, and it's going to be a tough test this next week, Derek. Let's have a great game. Let's get out of this a little bit better from an injury standpoint than we are walking into this.
Wait a minute. Where are you going? Where are you going with this? I know already, but where are you going?
I would probably lean on this one as I stand, and obviously, your feelings change on this week by week, and you're trying to fight the bias. I think that we're really beaten up coming into this game, and it's no small thing to say that you're down. You're down basically 3 of your defensive linemen, 3 of your more important defensive linemen, because even if Uchenna comes back, he's not at 100%. So, your 2 inside defensive tackles to be down in this game against a rushing attack that's as good as any in football, and to watch the Detroit Lions last week be so patient to run the ball throughout the whole course of the game and not do that thing that Ben can do, like you mentioned, which is start to get too pass happy and just go away for no reason. And he didn't do that last week. I think having that success off the back of last week will reinforce that into the game plan this week. I think we struggle enough in stopping the run that it will be a tight game. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring a game as the last 2 matchups, but you guys end up edging us out.
No way. No, yeah. Did you really just pick the opposite? Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think we still go to 11 wins this year, but there's going to be some losses on the schedule. And you guys are, I do think we have a little bit better chance because you're more injured. I mean, okay. You are a little more injured, and that's going to give us a bit of an opening. I do think it's a close game, and those close games can go either way, but where we're at right now as a team coming into this, you run the ball. Those are our 2 best run stuffers. You run the ball as well as anything. I know you mentioned you guys do work the outside and all that, but those inside runs going right at the point of attack, you put too many snaps on our defense. Our defense has already rolled kind of too many snaps in some of these games at times because the offense hasn't always been consistent. And I worry about that when I walk into this game, about that being something that ends up kind of eventually wearing us down over the game, and it just sort of becomes a bit too much.
And this is if Frank Ragnow doesn't go.
That's maybe a bit of a key on this one too, I guess. That's the part that's a struggle for me, because I haven't maybe totaled up all your guys' injuries. You're kind of calling me on the spot on this, where I'm not really sure of where your guys' final injury front will be on this. I went and looked at like we're talking about on the deal, and I mean, you look at the ESPN chart on your guys' injuries, and Isaiah Wilson, Traquan Smith, Sam Laporta, Frank Ragnow, Alex Anzalone, Brian Branch. I know Levi's fighting through something. Lee McKeel's fighting. So it's how bad is the injury situation makes it the hard part to predict this.
That's fair.
But I think the running game was very impressive last week. It's the Cardinals you're doing it against, but you guys have the guys to do it. You also have the commitment and scheme and moving guys in space on that offensive line and pulling them in space that can be problematic and troublesome. And when it comes to this McDonald defense that's sweeping the nation right now, one of the 2 ways that you go after attacking this defense is sort of the change up to the styling is going to be to hit them in the run game. Because if you get those 4-man fronts and they widen out the edges a little bit, and you get the defensive tackles in a little bit of a tight alignment, and you run those lion duo blocks that you guys like to run right at the point of attack, come downhill, duo blocks at the point of attack, natural movement, sometimes just a 3 or 4 yards in a cloud of dust, but you stay committed to it. Can we stop that? Well, if we don't have the rotation of guys to keep the bodies fresh going through there, and you do it through a whole course of the game, you can kind of wear us down on that. If we had those guys healthy, I'd give us the edge, but losing both of those guys this week just makes it hard for me to quite get to that spot on the prediction side.
Okay. Well, I welcome that. I appreciate the non-bias, and it'll be good, man, because we'll feel like a sigh of relief, and we'll both be 3-1 at that point. So I'm going to put you on the spot before we get off. Do you guys finish the deal and win the division? What do you think?
Boy, that's a tough question.
I know it's early. I know it's early.
It's again an injury thing a little bit, because I think with the Niners and Rams both, they're dealing with a little bit of some age on the roster at spots, and some bad injuries at key positions that really seem to be kind of carrying through right now. I mean, McCaffrey's going and having, baby embryos shot into his knee over there in Europe right now. So
I heard about that this morning.
Yeah. You can't do that in the US. It ain't legal here, They got the babies and the baby embryos in the bucket.
Well, you know what? You don't have to answer that, man. We got a long season. It's 14 games left.
I think we're gonna. My prediction at the start of the year is we're gonna win 11 games. I think the top end is 12. That's kind of that. If we could get to everything working out great, injuries work out great, you get to 12. I think 11 is right where I had us at. I still feel firmly there. Can that win the division? Maybe this year, as both the Rams and 49ers do look weaker than they looked walking into it. I suspected one of them was going to deal with that. Little bit too much age. You're relying too much on the top heavy enough stuff. It's a little bit of what's going on where, you're talented, but a couple of those base legs get cut out and you don't have the depth to lean back on in those positions. Niners are going to be dealing with this with the defensive line. For instance, they just lost Hargrave for the year. Yep. The kid they brought from the Texans has kind of been okay. Kinlaw gone last year. He's not back in the mix. They're getting weakened. So, it's opened up right now for us to take, but First year of a new head coach. We're onboarding 2 schemes. Derek, you got to keep in mind too on this, that we're going from the simplified on both offense and defense, some of the most simplified concepts you'd find in the sport, to now some of the most complicated on both those sides of the ball. And it's going to be a bit of an onboarding process. One of the reasons this week, I think we're not quite on that hitting on all cylinders thing. We've gotten to 3-0, but you're definitely still kind of working out the kinks a little bit. But yeah, that's a great question. I hope so, man.
This game can go a long way for seeding, man. And when it comes to, if we see you guys again, who's going where? Are we going to, Lumen or Link? What was it called before?
CenturyLink.
CenturyLink. Yeah. So are we going there, or are you guys coming to the D, man? So this game, and I think a lot of fans don't understand how these games early in the season, like the Tampa Bay game was pretty big. So now we need them to kind of go on a, losing streak, tear a little bit. So this game is going to be big, man, because I see y'all finishing quite strong, and you never know, man. We might see y'all later down the road.
I think you mentioned a great point about this, is that I feel much better about our matchup coming into Lumen Field in the winter than I would with going into Detroit. Now, your Detroit team's well built to be able to come into inclement weather and into the playoffs, because they do run the ball and they can muck it up and play it dirty and just be physical, which is a big part of playoff football. But certainly feel a lot better about that with you coming there than us having to come out there to Ford Field on that side of it, to your point.
I'm not going there. I'm not built for the outside. I will be in my basement watching the game or at a bar.
It's not fun.
So, yes.
I've been down there, especially winter. You're right on the water there in the ocean. It's blowing. It's that type of chill where it would almost be better if it was -5, that kind of chill like that, where it's at that. It's only like technically 30 or something on it, but it just feels like a little bit when you're in that stadium like that. So yeah, you're probably right not to want to come down.
I'll stay at home.
It's how we keep. It's why we didn't put the dome. It's we knew we were going to keep out all the foreign teams coming in there. Their fans will be keeping out because they want to deal that cold. Like Niner fans, if it's early September, you'll see them somewhere in our stadium. You get to the depths and like, where's the red?
I got you.
They don't like the cold down there. They don't. They like it nice and warm. They're a wine and cheese kind of crowd, Derek. That's the way they roll. A couple other donations we'll finish up with you here. Thank you for hanging in here with me. I already did that one. Sorry. Ski Nation, thank you again for the $5 and the $10 donation. He says, this is the best collab you've had outside of Jesse. Already subbed up to Derek. Do more shows. Best of luck to both you teams throughout the season. Well, thank you for reminding me on that, Ski Nation. Do folks please hit in the description link below is a direct link to Lions Syndicate, the channel Derek runs here. Let's show him, please, the love for taking out well over an hour of his time here to come over here and chop it up with me. He's busy. He's running. Thank you for doing this. I really do appreciate it, Derek, and really had a great time here chopping up with you again today, too, on these. So I would love to do this again with you as well, to Ski's point, man, for sure. Maybe in the playoffs when we meet again on that. Thank you for beating me for Seahawks. Thank you for the $2 donation. Says, don't forget the Darrell Taylor play. Oh, yes. The last year, Jared Goff had the fake handoff. Do you remember that, where he still went after? It's like 10 minutes after Goff faked the handoff, handed it off, and he's carrying out the fake that never works, the fake that never gets the defensive lineman ever to bite, and then Derek Taylor's like hammering him. The back's already 20 yards down the field,
Yeah, I remember. I'm like, wow. I mean, he destroyed Jared Goff on that play. Yeah, I do remember that.
Same guy, by the way, who we had an interception at one point. He's on the sideline. We have a pick on the play where a guy intercepts it. He's not in the play. He's on the sideline, comes off the sideline mid-play to block and doesn't get caught.
Wow.
Darrell was colorful, man. Darrell was colorful. He pushed that envelope. Mark Sanchez finishing us off with a great dono here. $20. Thank you for that, Mark. I really, really do appreciate that. It's good to see you in the house too, brother. Says, honestly, if we lose this game, I won't be upset. I'm a diehard Hawks fan, but the Detroit Lions need to be in a Super Bowl. We could still win, and the Lions could still make a deep playoff run like last year. Great points there all around there, Mark. I got to echo his thought process on this. There are insufferable fan bases, Niners. And then there are those fan bases that you feel a little bit of a kinship for, a little bit of a brotherly love for. And certainly they'll get Detroit teams or Cincinnati teams that haven't, Detroit in large part, Cincinnati at least got to the bowl a couple of times. You guys haven't been back there, but you do root for them in that way of like, look, you guys are hard pressed. You've been through some bad football. You've seen a 0-win season. Lost nothing but losses. And so I think that is, from Mark's standpoint, I want to echo that, Derek, that's something that you do here as a commonality amongst Hawk fans. I know there may be some hate from the Detroit fan base on this, but there is a sympathy aspect on it. we got to our bowl. We got to win our bowl. It is a relief. It is what you think it is. It's as great and as awesome as you think it would be. And so I do echo what Mark has to say on that.
Well, Mark, I appreciate you, man. And all love, man. We have been through it. First team in NFL history to lose 16 games. And we haven't forgot. Like we're reminded all the time. Dan Orlovsky running out the back of the end zone has no idea. And the worst, and I'll just leave you with this. Like, I'm the type of guy that, for me, this stuff it's about football is about family. If you think about it, right? You meet people you had never met. You kind of feel like you said, a kinship, like a family type atmosphere. And with Stafford winning the year he was traded, it makes it so much worse. So it's like the weight of never ever going to a Super Bowl, and then, oh well, your quarterback gets traded and win his first year. So now it's even more compounded. And that's why last year I was devastated, man. When I tell you, I mean, like, I'm leaving San Francisco, and to your point about Niners fans, it was a San Jose airport, and the TSA lady is like, I was really, really rooting for your team yesterday. We hate the 49ers. And this is in California. Yeah. And just coming back, I wind up having COVID, by the way, on the plane ride home. And I just felt the worst. And then the pilot is taking a shot. Brandon, he called us the dastardly Lions. You know what dastardly means? Cowardly. And I'm like, and then I'm sitting 2 rows across from these Niner people decked out in Niner gear. They got the chain, the hats, the red, and they're like Niners. So I'm still haunted by all of this. And to your point, like, just get there. That's all we want. And, if we could win our first one, then that would be fantastic. Just give us that. We got a saying, Brandon, it's called "One Before I Die." And that's what we're ready to see. So hopefully, if it's not this year, man, it's in the next couple of years and we finally get it done.
Well, Derrick, I think you're in good hands, where there's been so many times throughout my life and watching football of looking at the Detroit franchise and going, there's mismanagement happening here. There's bad coaching happening here. There's an aimlessness, a lack of a plan in place, a lack of a solid philosophy in place. These things have been changed, I think, with Dan Campbell and the recent direction you guys have gone down, and you are choosing a path and you're going your own way, and it's a fun way and it's a unique way. And I think that the NFL is so much about luck to a certain degree. You try to set the pieces in the right place and you hope it can hold up on it, but you guys have taken care and controlled what you can control in the background here to set that stage in that way. So I can't say I hope you're going to get the Super Bowl this year, because I want our team. I want my team every year to win it, but
absolutely,
you love the way you guys are rolling, and it's fun to watch a team put together this way, like I said, and how they're going. So best of luck to you guys going forward. Let's have a great game this week. Let's show the nation why we two are the better teams in the NFL and why you don't want to face us on a Sunday, and just give a nice, entertaining game. Come out of it uninjured.
In this case, a Monday. So we'll see you Monday, 8:15, man.
Monday, 8:15 or 5:15 our time out here in the West.
Right, you still have a life after the game.
That's right. We got plenty of time. That's right. Post-game discussions and all that. Yeah. Well, thank you again for doing this, Derrick. I really appreciate taking the time. I'd love to have you on again on this. And please, again, folks, do go down the description link below in the section. I got a direct link to Derrick's channel. You don't have to search it on YouTube. Just hit that link, go right to his page, sub on up over here, as he's been so kind to take his time out here to chop it up with me. Really appreciate it, Derrick, on that. Thank you so much, man.
Are you always this nice? Because I'm thrown off. Just, you so nice.
I try. I show my ass every once in a while, man. I'm not above that.
Hey, I appreciate you, man, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. You guys have a good night. We'll be back here soon, but until then, please don't forget, go Hawks, and sub on up over there, Lions Syndicate. Derrick's an awesome guy for doing this. Appreciate you, Derrick. You have yourself a great night, folks. Back soon. Appreciate you.